lots of requests from you guys to go over the features of the bike, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and show you my setup and all the running gear and components I use for training. Important to note, I'm not sponsored by Trek, so this is a completely unbiased view and opinion of the bike. Hi everyone, and welcome to the very amateur looking Bebetter broadcast studio today. As many of you know who've been following me for a while, I had a mishap with my last pink Trek, cracked carbon frame during travel. So about a month and a half ago now, bought this brand new Trek Speed Concept SLR 9. And lots of requests from you guys to go over the features of the bike, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and show you my setup and all the running gear and components I use for training. So that's what I'm going to go through today. Important to note, I'm not sponsored by Trek, so this is a completely unbiased view and opinion of the bike. I'll show you everything I do like and some of the things I don't like. And at the end, I'm going to answer a whole bunch of your questions that I received by direct message on Instagram last week. So hopefully we'll cover everything off today. Now, today I'm just covering everything, all the components and all the equipment I use on the bike for training, not racing. As it gets close to the Ironman World Championships in St. George, not long to go now, I'm going to do a separate YouTube video on all the components and all the equipment I use specifically for race day. Okay, first of all, color scheme, paint job. This is the Trek standard paint job, which is deep smoke and gloss Trek black. As some of you might know, with Trek, they have this awesome ability to do a Project One bike, which means you can pretty much design and pick your own paint job. I think from memory it costs an extra $1,000 to $1,500, but this is just one of the standard stock colors that Trek are producing with this new bike. So yeah, plain gloss black with this like metallic kind of logo that you can really only see in direct light or in the sunlight. Okay, next up, running gear. So things are a bit all over the place at the moment for me on this bike because it was all done in a rush and I had to switch over some of the components from my old bike. So what I'm running on here at the moment is my old Ultegra front chainring, so 55-42 front chainrings, Ultegra cranks, 165 millimeter with Stages dual-sided power meter. On the rear, I've got an 1130 cassette, Ultegra cassette at the moment. I've actually got a brand new Dura-Ace 1128 cassette on order at the moment, which I'll be putting on as soon as it arrives in the next month. This is the brand new Shimano Ultegra derailleur. So I've got the brand new Ultegra derailleur, my old cassette, my old cranks, and my old chainrings. I've actually got a new set of Dura-Ace chainrings coming this week in the mail. I'm going to go with a 54-39 setup on the front instead of the 55-42. And also, this was the stock standard brand new Shimano Ultegra derailleur that came with the bike. And I've got coming this week a brand new Dura-Ace derailleur. So I'll get that put on when I get the new chain rings put on this week as well. I'm swapping, just in case anyone's wondering, I'm going from the 5542 to a 5439 just to give me some better, well, with the 5439 combined with the 1128 cassette that I'm going to be running shortly will just give me some better gear, some closer gear ratios. I'm riding with a bit higher cadence now, so I think that will just give me some better, some closer ratios instead of the gears being a little bit further apart. Just allows me to find a better gear. Okay, front end, lots of questions about this. Here, some shots. Super clean front end on this new Trek compared to the old Trek. I absolutely love it. But one of the really frustrating things with Trek, which I thought they were going to like update with this new bike, but they haven't really. They've made it a lot cleaner and tidier. It looks fantastic, but you can still really only run Bontrager components or Bontrager extensions with the standard setup. So what we've done here, this is the standard Bontrager mounts, but we had to make some minor adjustments on the top of them to fit my drag 2.0 angled risers from my old bike in order to fit these Vision TFE Pro extensions on the bike. So I know that sounds complicated, and it kind of is. Like, it's not straightforward. You wouldn't be able to, for example, bolt these Vision extensions straight on to the standard Bontrager mounts. You'd have to get a mechanic or someone in the know to make some slight adjustments or a mount plate to be able to do that. So it's kind of frustrating that Trek still don't allow you to sort of bolt on any different brand extensions. Just show you from the front. I love these Vision extensions. Obviously, again, not sponsored, so completely unbiased opinion. But yeah, you can see there my mechanic made some slight adjustments to these standard Bontrager risers. We then bolted on the drag 2.0 angled risers, and the reason we did that because it got the angle exactly the way I needed it, and then the Vision extensions on top of that. And then obviously my mechanic has made this awesome carbon I guess like mount or something you would call it. These are a little bit ugly right now, but we're getting some nice black carbon ones made. But that was just a quick fix, which he did in 24 hours, mind you. So yeah, it's just this carbon piece that he's designed and cut that's like bolted into the mounts, and then that drink bottle cage is bolted in to that mount, so it all fits perfect for me. Like, that straw position is exactly where my mouth is, and the positioning and measurements are obviously all completely perfect. We got them all perfect when we changed the bike over. So for me, I actually don't mind that the Trek doesn't have the integrated hydration. I've had integrated hydration before, and I find it a bit clunky and annoying to clean and fiddly to open up. So I actually don't mind that, because this just comes straight out. Easy to clean, separate bottle. You can replace the bottle and straw whenever you want when it gets a bit gross, and it's just fitting into this standard X-Lab carbon bottle cage. Next we have the Garmin mount. I run this 76 Projects, freaking best computer mount I've ever had. I ran it on my old bike. Been using the 76 Project computer mounts for probably 2.5 years now. This is just like super simple. It's just like Velcro. It has extra spaces. Like when you buy it, it has extra spaces there depending on how wide your extensions are. But like super easy to fit. You can turn it up this way or up the other way. It's just perfect. Very easy to use. Okay, storage. This is one part I definitely love. Heaps. You can't really see it in here, but there's so much storage in this sort of like inbuilt bento box on top of the Trek. nice and clean. Look at that, like nothing sticking up. It's quite solid, this part where it opens, so nothing would like fall out easily. But I reckon it's actually so deep in there. I would say, at a guess, like talking, say like gel packets, I reckon you would fit like eight gels in there easily. Maybe even, yeah, I would say 8 to 9 standard gel packets would fit in there. So actually it would, yeah, it fits nutrition, but it also would fit easily like 2 or 3 or 4, maybe 3 or 4 like Cliff bars, like that kind of size bar. It's awesome. Yeah, like super deep and very handy. Okay, next up, this new aero hydration, I guess we call it. So this is this is the standard Trek bottle. I think they claim that they've done like aero testing, and it's actually the bike's more aerodynamic with the bottle in. So this is like, yeah, standard, just sitting on the frame. It does take a bit of getting used to when you're riding. So it kind of clips and slides down, but you can see there I was a bit clunky doing that. And it feels, the good thing about it and it being clunky, like it takes a bit of force to push it in and to pull it out, which I don't think is a bad thing, because it's, in my opinion, better that it does that than it being quite flimsy and it falling off when you go over a big bump or something. It's quite narrow, the bottle, and it's very big. It actually fits like, I think 750 to 800 mil, maybe even a little bit more of liquid in there. But yeah, let's see if we can do this a bit better. Yeah, so at first I didn't really like this, but now I use it every day in training to try and get used to the feel of it. And I've actually come to quite like it. And for a race, I basically run all my nutrition in this bottle, so that I only have to worry about water in the other spots. But yeah, I think this is a good update to the bike. Okay, next up we have this inbuilt flat kit section. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. So underneath that bottle, you just flick this up, and this nifty little package, it's kind of hard to do with one hand, sorry guys. Okay, this nifty little package, like flat repair kit. So obviously that sits in here in the frame, so it ducks back in there and sits inside the frame, which is freaking awesome. If anyone knew the old Trek, there used to be like a draft box, same as on some of the other TT bikes, that sat outside here. What I like about this and having this inbuilt solution, there's no rattling. You know, when you're going over bumpy roads and stuff, you can't hear any rattling around. So yeah, this little kit fits. You can see I've got spare tube, tire levers here, the CO2 canister there, and the CO2 canister head is there as well. My complaint about this is it's obviously great when it's all packed like this, but you can't fit a lot in here. It only fits one spare tube, and I've actually got a super light sort of space saving one there. And this canister, you have to, it's like screwed in. So if you got the flat in a race on the side of the road, you'd have to like spend 10 seconds unscrewing that. So it's really handy, like the way it all fits together and fits in the frame, really compact and nice and neat. But yeah, it's just fiddly to use, I guess. And if you're in the middle of a race, it would be a bit stressful sort of pulling it all apart and pulling everything out. So yeah, it's a great idea that it's in the frame. I just maybe think they could have done a little bit better with utilizing the space and allowing it to have a bit more space, because you know, I don't know what everyone else is like, but, you know, when I go out on training rides, I like to take 2 tubes, 2 canisters, just in case. So yeah, it's okay for a race setup, but still it's a little bit fiddly to get in and out. But you can see there, so I've already fit that in the frame, and it literally just pops back in. Snap that thing down. And the bottle sits back on top. Another update from the old Trek is this base bar that's actually painted. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. As you can see already here, I don't know if you guys can see that. It's already got a slight mark on the side here, just from it like leaning on a wall or something. It looks really pretty, but I'm just not sure how practical it is being painted. Obviously, if you had a white bike or a pink bike or a blue bike, it would be in the same color as the rest of the bike. So probably kind of lucky mine's in black, because the carbon underneath doesn't show much. But I think if you had a different color, wear and tear on that base bar could get a little bit ugly over time. Next new feature on this bike, which I thought was a bit of a gimmick at the start, is this ISO speed technology. I don't know all the technicalities around it, but basically it's like shock absorption and making the ride feel smoother. So obviously on a normal bike, this would just all be carbon, but on this, with this ISO speed technology, there's this like little bit of material that sort of runs down here and breaks up these 2 pieces of carbon. And honestly, like, I thought this was a marketing gimmick, but this is something that as soon as you get on the bike, you can tell the difference 110%. It just feels smooth. It's like, yeah, you can definitely tell it's just absorbing a lot of the shock and bumps on the road. Yeah, it's definitely something I love. I'm not 100% sure that it's like the best. I think they could have made it a bit tidier around here. I did notice today when I was cleaning my bike, it just seemed like this here, it's not 100% like weatherproof or sealed. Like, I'm sure it is. I'm sure they know what they're doing. But I did notice just like when I was washing the bike, there just was like a little bit of gunk that sort of seemed to be coming out of this, like these cracks down here or these seams down here. Which I'm sure it's all functionally, it's all fine. I just thought cosmetically they could have probably done a little bit of a better job with this section to seal it off and make it look a bit nicer. Okay, and of course this new Trek comes standard with disc brakes, no more rim brakes. This is the first time I've used disc brakes. I'm running the Dura-Ace rotors on here. My opinion on disc brakes, I actually love them. I love them to ride with. I feel so much safer, do a lot of climbing and descending, so yeah, I just feel so much safer with the disc brakes than I did with the rim brakes. I trained on my carbon wheels when I had rim brakes, so I always felt like I was going to burn a hole in them or something was going to happen to the brakes. So personally, I really love riding with the disc brakes. I loved riding it straight away. It's definitely more fiddly. So packing the bike, rebuilding it, things like that, definitely way more fiddly with the disc brakes, like a few more steps involved, not going to lie. Packing and rebuilding the bike the first few times is a bit frustrating, a bit of a pain in the backside, the extra steps that you have to take. But in my personal opinion, it's definitely worth it. I know people say that you don't need disc brakes on a TT bike, but I think a lot of the courses now, a lot of them are quite hilly. I think in wet conditions, like even sometimes when I was doing flat races, but in really wet conditions and running the disc on the rear, it would take like 100 meters to stop when you put the brakes on. So yeah, I know they weigh a little bit more, but in my opinion, I'm really happy with the disc brakes. Okay, saddle. I am running the Bontrager High-Low Carbon Pro. I've been using these Bontrager saddles forever, at least 3 or 4 years now. I've tried 2 or 3 different other brand saddles, and they just didn't work for me. This one's perfect. Cannot recommend it highly enough. A lot of people have asked me for saddle suggestions over the years, and I've always given them this and then received awesome feedback from them as well. So everybody's different and anatomy is different, but I've found, especially with females, a lot of females really like this saddle. Okay, charging. Another update to the new Shimano running gear is the charging, the Di2. You just open this little flap here. I won't do it, or maybe I will. There you go. Plug it in and it charges the Di2. Blue light flashes while it's charging. It's awesome. And wheel choice. Being a pro, I train on pretty much race wheels. A lot of people ask why, but I guess they don't really understand the logistics and travel requirements of being a pro. Constantly being on the road all the time, I'm not going to carry 4 wheels plus a disc, 5 wheels around with me all the time. And also I think like training on deep dish wheels just gives you that practice in the wind and all different conditions. So I chose the Bontrager RSL 62 for the front. So obviously roughly 62 millimeters deep on the front there. And on the rear, I went with the RSL 75. So 75 mil on the rear. I love these wheels. I was going to go with Zips, but actually I've had Bontrager wheels before and I'm a big fan of them. And of course they match the bike, so that's kind of nice. I'll run with a disc in most races, but I'll talk about that in another episode when we go over my race setup. But these are the wheels that I train on. And training tires, I use the Pirelli Cinturato Velo, which are very sturdy training tire. I don't think I've ever had a flat in training actually. These are like almost bomb proof, these tires. So they are awesome. Quite a heavy, but still nice tire to run for training. So yeah, they're perfect for training and avoiding flats and punctures. And just a few quick little things to make adjustments on your bike. It's again why I'm a huge fan of the Trek. This little hole here, you just stick a standard Allen key down there and that adjusts the seat height up and down. And this in here, another Allen key in there, and it changes the angle of the seat up and down. So super easy for anyone to make some minor adjustments. Okay, as I said earlier, as I mentioned earlier, I received a lot of questions from you guys wanting to know different things about this bike. So Elise is going to go through some of the questions now and I'll answer them as best I can.
Why do you only ride Trek if not sponsored? Have you not considered others?
Okay, why do I ride Trek if I'm not sponsored? Have I not considered other bike brands? Answer to that is, I got my first bike, triathlon bike, TT bike in 2015. And it was a Trek, was my very first bike. And so obviously I didn't know any different. I rode that bike, I think for about 2 or 3 years. Then I actually, in my first and second year racing pro, I bought a Canyon and rode a Canyon, and I actually couldn't stand that bike from the very first moment I got on it. I think bikes are very personal. We're all obviously made differently, different body measurements and things like that, and I think the right type of bike is very specific to the person. I rode that Canyon, I think for about 18 months. There was lots of things I didn't like about it. I actually didn't like the integrated hydration on the Canyon. I found it like really fiddly to pull apart, to put back together, to train with, to clean. It was just a pain in the backside. charging, like you had to undo the headset, like undo screws on the headset for charging. So just the general adjustability of the bike I found quite fiddly. Yeah, so for the 18 months I rode that bike, I really didn't enjoy it. I think the geometry of the bike didn't suit my body shape or ride style either. So yeah, I went back to a Trek after a couple of bike crashes on that canyon and just generally feeling unhappy with it for 18 months. I ended up switching back to a Trek and swore that I would never ride any other brand bike again, which may or may not be true, but this new Trek, I'm like so happy with it. I just loved it, loved the feel of it as soon as I got on it. So can't imagine changing bike brands again.
How did you decide what aero bar type you wanted or best fitted you?
How did I decide on my extensions? I am known as a bit of a tinkerer. I've pretty much, over the years, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, bit of OCD, so I like trying all different things until I find what's really comfortable for me. So I've tried probably 4 or 5 different types of extensions, and I've actually tried different angles on the extensions. You can see on my Instagram feed from my bike photos of the last few years, we've literally experimented with 2 or 3 different types of fits on the front end, from low hands to really high hands to like mid height hands. And this position now and this angle now, I've come back to, and it's the most comfortable for me. I've never been in a wind tunnel or on a track or had any aero testing done, but I think that this is the most aerodynamic position for me, just based on power output and speed and just looking at the position. These, on my old bike prior to this, I was running the Drag 2.0 extensions, and I actually loved those as well. They're like a standard type extension, but they run along your arm, so they're quite aero. Actually, a lot of professionals run the Drag 2.0 extensions. These Vision ones are probably just like one step up from that in terms of they run along your whole forearm, but they have a wider base than the Drag 2.0 extension. So they feel more secure because they secure a lot of your forearm when you're down in that TT position. And the way these bars kick up at the end, you would have seen earlier in the video when I focused in on the extensions, they kick up quite high at the end, and that's exactly how I like to hold my extensions. Some people like to hold their hands like this, but I actually like to like grip my extensions like that quite hard. So the way that these extensions kick up at the end is like perfect for the way that I grip the bars. So I'm pretty fussy with extensions and selection of components and things, but I am so happy with these. I actually think they're quite similar to the Speed Bar extensions, but obviously they're about 1/5 of the price. So I think these are really good value for money.
Would you say it's a bike for any level of experience, beginner to pro athlete?
That's a good question. I don't think this bike is pretty expensive. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think the retail of this bike, so coming with some standard race wheels and I think Ultegra group set, Shimano and Ultegra group set, I'm pretty sure the retail on this is $14,000. So unless you're made of money, I probably wouldn't suggest this bike for like entry-level type triathlete. It's an amazing and beautiful and top end, you know, like top end of the market triathlon bike, but I do think it's probably overkill in terms of the cost for entry level or like someone that just does a couple of triathlons a year. Obviously think you could get more bang for your buck elsewhere.
Are your tyres tubeless? What do you do if you get a flat in a race?
Okay, no, my tyres aren't tubeless. I have used tubeless setup and tubular before. but I prefer running tubes. And again, that's simply just because of my lifestyle and I'm traveling a lot. If I get a flat up on a mountain somewhere in the middle of training, yeah, just quickly changing a tube over is a lot less hassle and easier than bothering with like changing tubular and tubeless setups. So for me, I'm really comfortable running tubes. If I get a flat in the race, I change it myself. So as I showed you in the video before, I always carry, like always, no matter the distance of the race, I always carry flat repair, like spare tube, canisters, tire levers somewhere on my bike. Again, I know some professionals don't actually do that depending on the length of the race, but I always do it because I figure if something catastrophic goes wrong, at least I can change it and still get a good training session out of the day. So yeah, I'm always prepared to change a flat by myself during a race, and I don't rely on technical support.
Do you change chain rings for flat and fast versus hills? If so, details please.
Oh, I've actually been through all this before, experimenting with changing chain rings and cassettes depending on the course type. I've done some flat races before, like Daytona and Florida, and I've run a 58 chain ring on the front instead of the 55 that I'm running right now. It just, yeah, I try to keep my bike set up as uncomplicated as possible. I'm single, I'm traveling alone in foreign countries like most of the year, where you don't know bike mechanics, you don't know like local bike shops or anything like that. So I try to avoid people that I don't know and trust touching my bike as much as possible. So yes, I guess the answer to that question is depending where I am. If I'm racing somewhere where I'm very familiar with the bike mechanics in the area, and it's a very flat race, then yes, I might go with a much larger chain ring on the front and a block cassette on the rear, so the gear ratios, like the gearing ratios, are very close. But in general, I would say I try to keep a training setup, chain rings and rear cassette. I try to keep it so that it will work in most race scenarios and on most race courses, as well as training, just to avoid touching things and people touching things on my bike unnecessarily.
What are the differences between older Speed Concepts and this one?
Okay, so most of this stuff I would have talked about prior, but I think one of the main, or a couple of the main ones, are the carbon. So if you've known Trek for quite a while now, prior editions of the Speed Concept, there used to be a Speed Concept 7 and a Speed Concept 9, and the Speed Concept 9 used the higher quality, lighter carbon. The Speed Concept 7 had the slightly heavier carbon, so the Speed Concept 9 was always more expensive. And then they got rid of the Speed Concept 9 and just used the slightly heavier carbon for all the Speed Concepts in the last couple of years. This new Speed Concept SLR uses that really light, more expensive carbon as standard for all these bikes, and you can definitely tell the weight difference between this and my old bike, which was the slightly heavier carbon. So the carbon type, I would say the painted base bar, this cleaner front end, the ISO speed technology, this the inbuilt spares kit in the frame, and this bottle on the frame, and the disc brakes, they would be the main updates to the bike. Obviously you've got the brand new Shimano group set and running gear, but that's separate to the actual frame. So yeah, there's quite a lot of updates actually to the frame. It's not like they've just done one or two things. It's been a complete overhaul of the bike. Okay, so there were a lot of other questions, but I feel like I've covered most of them off when going through the bike. There were quite a lot of questions about the ISO speed, whether it works or whether it doesn't, why I choose these extensions, how we got these extensions to work on the front end, whether I like disc brakes, whether they're all hype. Hopefully I covered all that off for you in the earlier part of the video. So don't forget, if you found this review helpful, please like it, please share, please comment, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just really helps me out, keeps me motivated to keep these videos coming for you.